Welcome back to the OBIS data formatting series. Today we will learn how to convert our dates so that they adhere to ISO 8601 standards. One of the first things we can do is parse our dates into their component parts. We will start by creating 4 new columns. We'll name them day, month, year, and event date. We will rename the other event date column to verbatim event date. Now let's parse out the dates. Starting with day, I put 02, you'll notice that Excel automatically tries to format the entire thing as a date. To get around this, we're going to tell Excel to format these 4 columns as text. So now let's try again. Great, it's preserved the way we want to present the date. Now we can carry on. 03, 04. For the month, they're all July. Now if we click and drag this is a cautionary note that you should be aware of. In Excel, when you have numbers and when you click and drag to apply to many rows, many times Excel will often automatically increase your numbers. This can lead to errors in your dates and errors in your data. To avoid this, if you want to apply numbers, make sure there are at least 2 cells containing the numbers you want to copy, and then click and drag. Now it will all be the same number. However, we don't need these down here. Now we'll do the same thing for year. They all took place in 2013. Now we can finalize our event date. ISO 8601 formatting requires it to be presented as year, month, day with hyphens in between. Because we're going to be using a formula, we want to make sure, rather than text, that the format is general. So we're going to use that concat function to concatenate the year, a hyphen, the month, another hyphen, and day. Now we can apply the formula, and we have our event formatted in ISO 8601 standards. But because we have used a formula, we're going to copy and paste in place as values to make sure this doesn't change. Note that it is not necessary to parse dates like this, but it can be useful to make sure individual pieces are preserved. There are tools such as the Canadensis date parser, which you can also use to help you parse your dates. Now that we've formatted our dates, let's go over to the Documentation tab and write notes for how we did this. So the original field name was called date. We moved it to verbatim event date. In notes, we're going to write that we parsed the date into day, month, year, and concatenated it into the new field event date. So let's look at a few additional examples for when you have the time a specific occurrence occurred, when only partial dates are known, or when you have a range of dates. So if you have the exact time an observation occurred, you can easily include this information by adding a T between the date and the time. And all times must be written in the 24-hour clock system, not the 12-hour clock. Also be aware that when you include time, indicating the time zone can be additionally useful. If you don't indicate the time zone, then the time will be assumed to be local according to the coordinate location. Time zones should be indicated by the number of hours offset from UTC, either plus or minus. However, if your date is provided already in UTC, simply add a Z at the end of your time. So for this example, we will concatenate again the year hyphen the month, the day. We'll add a T, again it needs to be in quotations, and finally the time. Now this time was taken in the morning, so we don't have to worry about converting it into the 24-hour clock system. So as we can see, Excel has automatically converted our time into a number. We clearly don't want to represent our time like this, so we have to do an extra step. We have to tell Excel that we want it to be represented as a text. So we want this cell to be represented as a text, and we want it to be hours, minutes. You can also include seconds if you have seconds. But we don't in this example, so we will only have hours, minutes separated by a colon. And now we can close our brackets. And now we have our date with the T separating the time, and we can apply this formula to as many rows that have time. As usual, we want to select everything that has a formula. We want to copy it and paste as values so our times don't get changed again. There may be cases where you have incomplete date information. For example, only the month and year are known, or even just the year is known. You can capture this information simply by providing just the year. For example, it would be just 2013. Now, if you only have the year and the month, you could show it in ISO format like this, the year and the month. When you do not know certain date information, please do not enter zeros to fill missing data. Missing date information should never be provided as a zero. This includes cases for when the year is unknown, so if you only know the month and the day. When the year is unknown, you must simply provide the day and the month separately in their own Darwin Core fields, month and day. So again, please do not provide the year as zeros, and do not provide only the month and the day on their own. This is invalid. In cases where you are uncertain on the exact date of an occurrence, you can provide a range of dates. To do this, you're simply going to write a backslash in between the start and the end dates, like this example. Please do not use any other punctuation to indicate date ranges. So hyphens, forward slashes, commas, anything else should not be used. Providing ranges in this way with a backslash to separate the start and the end will indicate that the occurrence took place sometime between the start and the end. Make sure to provide useful comments in the event remarks field if you have had to interpret any parts of the data. This will help long-term documentation and may help the user better understand the data. If you have text descriptions of dates, this can also be provided in verbatim event date. A few other examples for when you have unknown time. Simply don't provide the time. Please do not provide the time in zeros, like in this example, as that indicates midnight. Now when you know time, as we went over before, you must provide it with a T and in hours, minutes, and 24-hour format. Please do not provide 12-hour format. and make sure to include the leading zeros for hours before 12. When you know the time zone, make sure to indicate it at the end. And please do not provide any acronyms for time zones. If your time zone is in UTC, as we mentioned before, simply provide a Z at the end. You do not need to provide UTC in written form. So, with your dates formatted and the coordinates converted, we can now move on towards formatting our core and extension tables. We'll do this in the next videos.